So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. We had a really popular Zoom meeting last week in regards to stickers, which was run by Alex. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be covering sort of little sections that cover how to get the most out of your printer, also how to put all the processes we learned last week into practice. So including today and the next few weeks, we're going to be learning getting your cutting right. So the cut blades, the consumables. We're looking at a materials Zoom meeting. So learning what certain materials are good for certain substrates. And then we'll be doing a maintenance as well. So everything you're going to be learning over the next few weeks is all put into practice to get the most out of your machine, to keep putting out high quality work, and to learn as much as you can about your printer. So, like I say, this week we're going to be looking at the cutting side of your roll and print and cut. Across the whole range, it's more or less the same, whether you have a BN20, a Truvis VG3, or any of the VersaCam range. It's all set the same way. So same blades, same blade holders, and we'll be touching on certain subjects regards to blades and the perf cut as well. I was going to go through a few practices through VersaWorks, but we already have some tutorial videos on stuff like the custom cut and the print laminate cut. So if you want to have a look at our YouTube for that side of things, we have some good tutorial videos on that. So today I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to be looking at blades and your cutting side of things. So I'm just going to share my screen with yourselves. So I've just put together a little document. You can all have access to this document afterwards. Just feel free to drop it in the chat, and I can send this out via email. So the first thing we're going to look at is making sure you've selected the right type of blade. I have just based this on the genuine Roland blades, but you can also get third-party blades from Roland dealers. You can also get smart knives, which I'll be touching on over the next 30 minutes. But for now, we'll look at obviously selecting the right type of blade. This is highly important. This will protect your cutting strip. It will save wastage on your vinyl. It will make sure you get a high quality cut as well. So knowing what blade to use for certain materials is key. So we'll look at that now. So the first one you get is the standard 45-degree blade. This comes as standard from any new Roland printer. You'll get this as part of your accessory kit. This is useful for probably 90% of your everyday use. So this will be perfect for cutting stickers, cutting graphics, cutting HTV vinyls. This is your standard blade that will do 90% of what you need. The offset of this normally comes on the box, depending on the third-party blade you may get. It won't, but most of the 45-degree blades, they come up at an offset of 0.250. The offset can be important. If the offset's incorrect, you'll get jagged cuts, you'll get circles that aren't quite joining up, you'll get text that is misaligned. So the offset is highly important. And by default, 45-degree blade and the offset on your machine will be set default as 0.250. So as long as you're using that blade, that is set as standard. As you come down, you've got your small text blade. Now, not many people know about the small text blade. So if you're cutting, for instance, anything less than 5 mil, this is perfect. It's a 60-degree blade, so it's got a sharper angle tip. They are all drag knives. So what happens is with this one is you can get sharper angle, sharper linear detail just by using a small text blade. This will improve the quality of text, the joining up of text, and just hitting really a high quality small text cut. And this is again, same for sign vinyl, self-adhesive vinyls, and HTVs. You have also got a standard 6-degree blade. So this is for your thicker materials. If you've got, say, motocross vinyls, laminated vinyls, your thicker self-adhesive vinyls. The 60-degree blade obviously has a sharper angle. It can cut deeper. It can hit sharper linear detail. So on this side of things, this comes with an offset of 0.500. So they're the two main ones are the 45-degree blade and the standard 60-degree blade. You can use the 60-degree blade for your everyday stuff. The only thing with that is it will be less of a cut force than the 45-degree. So always make sure you're getting the cut force right on your printer when changing between blades. Like I say, you can get third-party blades. The genuine rolling blades can be a little bit pricey. We tend to use a mix of both. So we use the genuine rolling blades, and we also have a backup of, you can get like a set of 5 from any sort of Roland dealer for normally the price of 1 from a genuine Roland. So it's all down to you really, what quality you want to use. If the third-party ones don't work for you, go genuine. If the genuine, vice versa. If the genuine ones don't work for you, you can also always get cheaper. They'll do the same job. The lifespan might just be a little bit shorter. Once you've got your blade, you now want to make sure you're setting the correct cutting force. Again, this is highly important in regards to blade condition, blade holder condition, your quality of cut, and also protecting your cutting strip. So for those that don't know, the cutting strip is it's a pad that runs the length of your machine, and it acts as a cushion for the blade. So it helps just to protect the blade, so it's not cutting on bare metal. It will help with the quality of cut, and it just acts as like a soft pad. So when your blade is penetrating the vinyl, it's not damaging and taking the tip off the end. As you can see on screen, you've got like a little diagram of how it kiss cuts, contour cuts. So you see the blade holder, the blade. So with the blade, when you put that into your blade holder, recommended you're looking anywhere between 2.5 to 3 mil. So normally the width of like a credit card. Once you start changing blades enough, the genuine Roland blade holders, they can, once you've set it once, you don't have to set it again. You can just press the spring-loaded bearing at the bottom, the blade will pop out, put the new one in, and it's set to how it was before. So there's no real adjustment. You can adjust it if needed, but again, it's all down to the user and how they think it needs to be set. Everything you're going to see today is all recommendations of what we've been using in the industry for the last few years. It's a good start point. Like I say, if you're not sure, it's a good start point to start. You might find your own way of doing things. But ideally, like I say, this is all recommendations. You've got to sort of have a look at it yourself, see if you need more blades sticking out, see if you don't, see if you need more force. Everything you see today is all a recommendation. So don't take my word fully for it. What you want to do for the correct cutting force is to make sure that it's penetrating the top layer of material, but it's not penetrating the backing sheet. We will be touching on perf cut, which we will cover that in the last part of the meeting. But yeah, as you come down, you will see on the majority of Roland printers, you've got the test cut. So this is the test cut, circle with a square inside. Your aim is to weed away the circle, leaving the square behind. If that happens, you've got the optimum cutting force. What I tend to do then is weed the square away, and from there, what I like to see is a slight indent in the backing paper. Not so much that it's cut through, you just want to see a slight marking on the backing sheet so you know you've got the right amount of cutting force. I have included a little table there, so you can see if certain things aren't happening, the result of it will be and what to adjust. So, for instance, if the cut shape is distorted, you change the cutting speed and possibly the offset as well. It doesn't say that there, but if the circle doesn't quite match up, or it's more like an egg shape rather than a circle, you change the cutting speed, or most of the time I'd probably change the blade offset, make sure that is set okay. Same for what I've just said, peel off the circle. If the square also peels off, you're going to need more force, so you'd increase the force. And if you have some uncut areas remain, then you'd reduce the cutting speed. The cutting speed, again, we'll touch on in a second. It's all down to user preference. So you can, like I say, after this meeting is finished, I can send this document out and you can have this as a reference if ever the cut test isn't quite the way you'd expect it to be. Check the box, see if there's anything you can do, and it will recommend you what you need to set or adjust at that time. Now, for most of you, I'm guessing you either have one of the VersaCam range or one of the TrueViz range. This is the config menu to get through it on the VersaCam range. It's very similar on the TrueViz models. The TrueViz 3, it's all touchscreen. You'll still find it in your cut config, but that will be a separate button and it won't look exactly like it does now in this menu. So again, 90% of the VersaCam range will have this cut config button, which is in the function button. If you have the older end-of-life machines, so the old SP, the SPV, it will have its own cut config button. So if you need to change the cut config, you will have a separate button just for the cut config. As you come down, the first option you'll have is force. I've done a little recommended settings that I personally use, and also the speed settings. So for HTV, every printer you'll find is going to be slightly different in terms of cut force, cut speed, the way the material cuts, prints. Every machine is going to be slightly different. So use this as a guide, up it, lower it, decrease it, increase it, whichever way you want it to go. So in my experience, brand new blade will cut HTV anywhere between 50 grams of force and 80 grams of force. For self-adhesive vinyls, sign vinyls, you're looking anywhere between 80 and 120. Again, that is just a tip. Sometimes it can go to 130, sometimes it can go down to as less as 40 grams of force. I have found on the newer models, such as the TrueViz 2 and the TrueViz 3, the solenoids on the cut carriage, they tend to be a bit more forgiving. So even cutting self-adhesive vinyls, you can get away with cutting that at 60, 50, 60, depending on the type of blade you're using. Always do a test cut. So once you're happy, always start at the lower end of them settings. What you don't want to do is start at the higher end and it cuts straight through, damages your blade, takes the tip off the blade, and damages your cutting strip. That is the last thing you want, because you'll be flying through blades. You just start at the lower end and you can always increase it by 5 or 10 grams of force every time. A useful tip, like it says there, when you're doing laminated stuff, it's always hard to judge how you're cutting laminate. So again, each laminate's going to be different. You can have different grades of laminate, vehicle, outdoor signage. Each laminate's going to be slightly different. So again, always start at the lower end. So what I always say is, if you're using 80 grams of force for your vinyl to cut vinyl, up it to 160 and go from there. It might still not cut through enough, but I'd rather start low and increase it slowly. If you start too high, it cuts straight through, you're going to damage blades, put strain on the blade holder, and also damage your cutting strip. So I thought I'd include that in there just for anyone who is new to cutting laminated stickers and graphics. It's a good start point, just so you're not flying through blades and replacing blade holders more than you should. And then the speed settings. As default on the Roland, your maximum speed is 30 centimeters per second. I don't think I've ever used the printer at that speed. Recommended settings there between 20 and 25. And the up speed, which is the speed the vinyl moves backwards and forwards, and also the point where the blade's in the up position. So when it moves from point to point, that is the up speed. The reason I slow that down, if you're doing anything longer than 1.5 to 2 meter runs of stickers, if you're doing it at high speed, it can move, the tracking can go off, the alignment can go off. So always start slow, and you might find over a few weeks, over a few months, you can speed certain jobs up. So for laminates, I definitely sort of start on the slower side. For just normal standard self-adhesive stickers, start around 20, 25. If you need to slow it down, if you're finding it's not quite hitting the quality, the cut lines are moving out of alignment from your print, slow it down a little bit. If you find you can get away with quicker speed, great, you get jobs done quicker. But yeah, always start at a recommended setting. That way you'll minimise wastage, you'll minimise tracking issues, and also the misalignment of your print and cut. So I'm hoping that's a good, helpful start point for many of you. And then, like I say, you can adjust it as needed. Roland, even if you're under warranty or not under warranty, Roland don't cover you for any of the consumables. So what you want to do is try and save yourself as much money as possible. So everything you've just seen in choosing the right blade, the right cut force, the right speeds, etc. This will all impact on how often you're changing blades, how often you're changing blade holders, and how often you're changing the cutting strip. So what I've done is just put a bit of sort of like an estimate of how often you'll be changing these parts if you follow them steps we've just seen. So the blades, obviously check your blade. We check it 3 or 4 times during the day. We're doing meters and meters worth of stickers. What you don't want to do is send 2-3 meters worth of print and cut job and find out at the end it hasn't cut deep enough. So every couple of hours, just check your cut depth, make sure it is still cutting through your vinyl. That way you'll minimize wastage and so on. You should be changing your blade really, again, depending on how much you cut. We change it anywhere between every month, every 2 months, depending on how busy we've been. Most of the time, that is judged on an 8-hour day. So if you're not cutting for a week, then the life of the blade will obviously extend. The blade holder, they're fairly solid, the blade holders, especially the genuine ones. All you've got to do is, obviously, as it's cutting the vinyl, you're going to get little strands of vinyl that get caught up in the blade, that then get dragged up into the bearings of the blade holder. So maybe at the end of every day, just take the blade holder out, take the blade out, have a look inside, make sure there's no strands of vinyl that can stop the movement of the blade, stop the function of the blade, and just make sure it is working as possible. You sort of, as you go over time, as you start changing blades, you'll start noticing if your blade holder needs changing. So with the genuine blade holders, you'll put your blade in and the magnet will suck it back into place, attach it into place. As you start pressing the spring-loaded at the other end, spring-loaded bearing at the other end, you'll see there's too much movement on the blade. If there's too much movement on the blade, you're going to get jagged cuts, you're going to get poor cut quality. So you start knowing over time your own blade holder, your own blades, and you probably change that anywhere between 1 and 2 years. Some people have had the same blade holder since they've had the machine, so pushing on 4 or 5 years. Anything you can do to help saving the cost of consumables, the better. Because, like I say, consumables come out of your own money. It's not covered by any sort of warranty or anything like that. Touching on the blade holders, there are third-party blade holders. Again, rolling dealers will have their own blade holders, more or less the same sort of thing as the genuine one. You can get something called the Smart Knife, which I find a lot of my customers tend to use. So again, for those that don't know, the Smart Knife is a blade and blade holder all in one. So you can't adjust the blade, you can't take the blade out. What you basically do is find out who sells it, you buy the complete package of blade and blade holder. When it becomes blunt or no longer good for use, you send it back to the supplier. They will send you you pay for a new one, they'll send you a new one, and that will then get resharpened and sent off to somebody else. So the Smart Knives, a little bit cheaper than the genuine rolling ones. I find a lot of customers do use them. They are quite a good tool. And you can get different types of Smart Knives. So you can still get your 45 degree, you can still get your 60 degree, and you can still get your small tech. So if you're interested in the Smart Knives, just give it a quick Google and you'll find probably your local rolling dealer will probably stock them. And then the last but not least is the cutting strip. So like I say, the cutting strip is probably the most at risk of getting damaged. Not overly expensive, but it's highly important to keep the quality of your work, the quality of your cuts. Because the blade's physically touching that cutting strip when it's cutting, it's acting as a cushion. If there's any sort of deep gouges or grooves or bits of it missing. You will notice there'll be inaccurate cutting depths. You'll lose the cutting quality. You'll have jagged cuts. You'll have textures and shapes that aren't aligned. So all this will contribute in keeping that cutting strip as fresh as possible. And you're probably changing that once a year. Visually check it every so often. If you start seeing deep gouges, order one in, keep one handy, because it's always good to have one, and it is just a self-adhesive backing. So you peel the old one off, the new one just sticks back down in place. If you've had the cutting strip on for probably more than a year, more than 2 years, you might get a bit of glue residue left behind. So before you put the new one down, just make sure that's all cleaned off. Make sure it's a clean surface to put the new one back down. Okay, so hopefully that document's a little bit of help. It's just a basic look at how to prepare your machine for cutting, choosing the right tools for the job you need. This will link on to what we'll be doing next week with the materials. Like I say, there's so many materials out there. Each material will cut at different depths, different forces. So once you understand how to set your blade, what you expect from your cut test before you even start printing, that will all help with getting the most out of your material, stop wasting material. So like I say, if you want this document afterwards, we can send this out to you, not a problem. What we'll touch on now is we'll just go into VersaWorks, and I will show you something called perf cut. So for the perf cut side of things, it's die cut in old money. This will allow you to cut through the vinyl itself and also the backing sheet. It takes a bit to get used to, so expect a little bit of wastage, maybe a broken blade here and there. But once you get it nailed on, you'll be set then, because you know what force settings you need for certain materials, all the settings you need. So this perf cut it's a great way of cutting out, mind the pun, of once you've print and cut your stickers. With the contour cut, you'd have to put it on your application bed, cut around the sticker to pack. With the perf cut, this will cut through the backing sheet. So as it's printing, once it's finished, you can just push them out and pack them with the backing sheet still intact. Just a quicker way of sending out stickers. If you haven't got an application table to cut certain, or you're limited to space, this will allow you to still cut out your stickers, but do it in a way where you can just push the stickers out rather than cutting, pack them up, send them out. So just a quick overview on the perf cut, because it can be a bit of a minefield. We can possibly do another video on that if there's enough interest, because it can be a quite useful tool. Now, I haven't actually got anything with perf cut on, but the good thing with VersaWorks 6 is that you can add a perf cut within VersaWorks 6. Again, we've got a video on our YouTube channel which will show you the job assistant. Now, the job assistant allows you to add cut lines within VersaWorks. So it's designed for the basic user who hasn't got Illustrator, hasn't got CorelDRAW, to be able to come in straight into VersaWorks, install it, and as long as it's a PDF, you will be able to put a cut line around that and get up and running before you think about the expense of a Illustrator or CorelDRAW. So we'll select our PDF, and I'm just going to show you quickly how with the perf cut. So in the job assistant, that opens up. Okay, so in the job assistant, you'll be able to select whatever you want to print and cut. You'll have your type of cut, which is the cut, and then you have your perf cut. So most people already have their cut applied in their design software. But if you come in and you want to add a perf cut, you'll have the swatch within Illustrator, but you'll also have it in Job Assistant as well. So we'll select Perf Cut, and we'll say, I want that to cut 2 mil away from my job. Press Create, and it will add the Perf Cut line for you. Obviously, with this design, it has done it on the inside, but if you just had the outer layer in your design, you could just select the outer line. So that's created a Perf Cut for me now. So once that's created, you'll see in the special items, you've got the Perf Cut. And then when you go into your VersaWorks and your cut controls, you'll have your perforated settings available. Touching on the cutting conditions, anything you set in your printer, you can also set in there. So this is your normal cut. So if you click that, you can override the settings that you'll have in your printer. But we covered that a few weeks ago. So I won't go too much into detail, but for now, we'll look at the perforation settings. All the settings, I'd say, if you're thinking about doing perf cut, is leave the same. All you're interested at the moment is the force. You want to make sure the cut force is set. All the other things you can set afterwards. So the perforation length is the length it cuts through your material. The half cut length is it will jump. It will leave a notch of 1 mil. So as it's cutting and printing, it's still attached to your vinyl. So afterwards, you can just come and push your sticker out. So the perforation length and the half cut length, you can change afterwards. But the main thing is doing your perforation force. And the way I'd suggest, again, is start low. So maybe start at that 150 grams of force. That will cut through your vinyl. And again, what you don't want to do is cut through so it's shredding your backing sheet. You want to cut through enough so it's just about cutting through the backing sheet. It will take a bit of playing around, but like I say, if there's enough interest with the perforation side of things, we can cover another Zoom meeting on that. Because like I say, if you've never done it before, it can be a bit of a minefield, but the perforation cut settings are the trickiest ones to get. Because like I say, you can cut straight through, you can cut not quite enough. So once you've got that force set for certain materials, you're ready to go. And then obviously as the blade gets blunter and blunter, you can increase the force as you go. So as far as the cutting goes, I hope that was a short but sweet, helpful meeting on just how to select the right type of blade, how to select the right type of blade out, and all this will contribute in getting high quality work churning out of your printer. It will also save long term on consumables. You won't be buying blades as often as you should. You won't be replacing cutting strips as often as you should. It's just a way of you keeping your printer performing at the highest level as possible and getting the most out of your printer. So like I said, over the next few weeks, we'll be covering more. If you want a bit more information of what we covered today, or any sort of one-to-one, how to do perf, how to do anything, cut contour, anything really, anything you've seen over the last few weeks, anything you want to see in the future, we can cater these sessions to yourselves. Obviously, it's all free content to try and help the user get the most out of your role and product. So yeah, hopefully, thanks again for joining us. I hope in the next few weeks you can have some input where necessary, and if there's anything else you need from me, you've got our details. We'll send, I believe, in the chat. There's been a few people asked for the documents. That's fine, no problem. Thanks again for joining us, and I will see you over the next few weeks. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.